If you think Italians are relaxed and easygoing, think again. I was trying to explain the concept of easygoing to an Italian colleague. You know, relaxed, flexible, not worrying too much if things aren't perfect. She looked at me and said, "You mean sloppy?" And that's when I understood. In Italy, being easygoing isn't a compliment. Italians value being precisi, being precise, which, as we'll find out, means the opposite of easygoing. Welcome to the 5 things people never tell you about working with Italians. I'm Eleanor, and in this 4-part special on Precisione, we're unpacking one of the most surprising and misunderstood traits in Italian culture. Because if you're working with Italians, then Italian clients, or building a team here, this might be the one cultural insight that helps everything else click into place. There's no real translation for easygoing that sounds like a compliment in Italian, and no real translation for preciso that sounds like a compliment in English. In English, I'd associate being precise with being uptight, the kind of person who alphabetizes their spice rack. In Italy, being preciso makes you trustworthy, someone people can count on. 2 languages and 2 very different ideas of what's attractive. I recently met a British entrepreneur opening an office in Italy. He was making light of the Italian legal system, joking that Italian law is chaotic and nobody really understands or respects it anyway. He said, "You know, Italians are an easygoing lot. We'll figure it out once things are up and running." And that's the trap. Confusing Italians' flexibility around time and conversation with a lack of seriousness about quality and responsibility. In business, this difference can lead to real misunderstandings, especially if you're mistaking structure for rigidity or flexibility for carelessness. So if you've ever wondered why ordering a coffee is such a performance over here, or why signing a contract feels like receiving a knighthood, stay tuned. Let's talk about a common misconception about Italians. There's a cultural model called Hofstede's Dimensions, looking at how different countries relate to things like hierarchy, individualism and uncertainty. And one of the dimensions is called indulgence, how much a society values enjoyment and immediate gratification. Most people assume Italians score high on indulgence, la dolce vita, right? And Brits, with their emotional repression and keep calm and carry on, score low. In fact, it's the opposite. Italians score low on indulgence, the UK scores high. That sounds wrong until you understand what indulgence means culturally. In Anglo cultures, indulgence is about letting go of responsibilities. It's about fun, treats, loosening up. It's pleasure as escape, and usually with a hint of guilt. In Italy, pleasure isn't escape. It's more like a duty. Not treat yourself, but do it properly. Fun must be structured, elegant, and appropriate, and sometimes a little like work. In fact, there's no Italian word for fun in the carefree, silly sense. In Italian culture, where there's pleasure, there's precisione. Let me give you an example. Italian sweets. As a child, I spent every summer in Italy, and to celebrate my onomastico, my name day, I'd be given these gorgeous boxes of caramelle, traditional Italian boiled sweets, brightly coloured, wrapped in shiny foil and cellophane, like an expensive bunch of flowers. Every summer I'd open the box, taste them and spit them out. They looked like treasure, they tasted like homework. The flavours, rhubarb, barley, licorice, hazelnut. It was less sweet shop and more medieval apothecary. I was expecting strawberry, I got root vegetable. The lesson I learned early on, in Italy you don't get rewarded with sugar, you get rewarded with elegance and a touch of bitterness. That was one of my first experiences of culture shock. In Britain, sweets are meant to be sweet, fun, silly, excessive, indulgent. In Italy, even sweets are made with restraint in mind. They must look beautiful, the presentation must be magnificent, but they mustn't be too sweet or too rich or childish or excessive. Even treats must be appropriate, composed, precisi. British sweets say, let's bounce off the walls. Italian sweets say, let's sit down and reflect. Because in Italian culture, pleasure isn't about letting go. It's about doing it properly. Mealtimes are another example. In the UK, you can grab food anytime. The middle of the morning, the middle of the afternoon, 10:30 at night. It might not be good, but it's there. In Italy, Restaurants open for lunch between 12:30 and 2:30, and that's it. Miss your window and you're out of luck until they open again at 7 in the evening. No sandwiches, no emergency plate of pasta, no mercy. Even food, the great Italian passion, has its schedule, because in Italy, pleasure must have structure. Eating, like everything else, must be done properly, with precisione. So what's the point? The precisione isn't just about being exact, it's about doing things properly, with care, in context, at the right moment. When to eat, how to present yourself, how to show respect. So, what are the takeaways? First, in Italy, precisione is a compliment, not a criticism. Second, what looks easygoing on the surface often hides a deep cultural commitment to doing things properly. Third, even sweets, meals, and daily pleasures are designed with structure, restraint, and craft. In the next episode, we'll explore how precisione shows up not just in food or timing, but in rituals that turn everyday acts like cooking with your nonna or signing a contract into acts of pride and care. And we'll see why, in Italy, making a fuss isn't wasting time. It's marking something that matters. If you work with Italians in teams, in business, or in life, and want to avoid misunderstandings, build stronger partnerships, and get things done with more ease and trust, that's exactly what I help people do. Through coaching, cultural training, public speaking, and workshops, I help international professionals decode Italian culture and communicate with more confidence. Curious? Let's connect. Details are in my profile. Buona giornata.